tonight is all about the paper, the Designer Series paper. And there's a lot of pieces to this card, and I call it a cutaway card. And I like it because it allows you to use the Designer Series paper on the inside of the card, and then that kind of acts like the front also. So there's lots of color and pattern on these, and you know, there's a little extra cutting, lots of layering, but I think these are so pretty. Now this paper is the Berry Blessings Designer Series paper, and it is part of a free gift during celebration. When you purchase $100 worth of product, you will receive not only this paper, but this stamp set comes with it. The paper is actually called Berry Delightful Designer Series paper, and the stamp set is called Berry Blessings. Now, I didn't use the stamp set tonight, but I did use this paper. And then the other example that I have here uses the Flower and Field. Let's see if I can find it. Yes, the Flower and Field paper. It's on page 10 of the Celebration catalog. And you get this pack of paper with a $50 purchase during Celebration. Now, Celebration runs through the end of February. February 28th will be the last day to get these free gifts with purchase. Like I said, I call this a cutaway front card. There's probably some other name for them, but that's what I call it, because you literally cut away part of the front of the card so that you can see the Designer Series paper inside. I want to show you how to do the cutaway on the card base. So the card base, it starts with 5.5 by 8.5, and we're going to score it at 4 1/4. Okay, so that gives us a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base. Whoops, and I don't have all my lights on. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to score this at 4 1/4. So if this were my card and I folded it as I normally do, let me do that first. I'm going to fold it so I can show you. You don't have to fold it first, but I want to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to cut in horizontally on this card 3 1/4 inches from the top of the card. So this is the top of my card. You see that? That's the top. And I want to come in and cut across here at a 3 1/4 inches. So I'm going to put this in here. The top of my card is to the left. I'm going to line that up on the 3 1/4. I want to make sure I'm right there. Yes, 3 1/4 inches. And I'm going to make a cut only to the score line, and I'm actually going to turn my trimmer so that I can see. Our blades on the trimmer have nice little marks on them, so you can actually see, and you can see through your guide when you get to the 4 1/4. So make sure I have everything lined up 3 1/4. I have this lined up at 3 1/4, and I'm going to come in just to my score line right there. Okay, now I'm going to cut straight down, and I'm going to remove this large upper flap. Sorry, got too close to the camera. So I'm going to come straight down my score line, and after making a couple of these, I discovered that I really like to try to cut off most of that score line so it doesn't leave a little bump there. So I'm going to line this up with the cutting track, And I want to line it up so that it looks like I'm going to take off most of that score line. And I'm only going to come down to the cut that I just made. All right, so everything's secure against the top. Just going to come down, and I'm just lining up this little line on my cutting blade with that cut that I made just prior to this. And if I don't cut all the way, I can use my paper snips to finish, but it looks like I did. There we go. There. So that's all the cutting. Now I did leave a tiny ridge there, but that's okay. I can take my bone folder. Let me get this out of the way. I can take my bone folder and just smooth that down a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. That's where the scoring was. See, that took care of it. Okay? So this is our card base now. We've cut away that upper section. And now it's just a matter of layering everything on to the card. And when I put these together, I start with the inside of the card and work my way forward. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to start with the mat. And I used black on all of these for the mats. And it coordinated well with this paper and with the berry paper. Not sure how it's going to work with this, but we'll see how it turns out. I use both sides of the paper in these cards, and for the inside, this piece, the main piece, is 3 5/8 by 4 7/8, and I'm layering it onto a 3 3/4 by 5 inch mat, and again I'm using black, and this leaves just a 1/16 of an inch of border around, just enough to make it pop. You see that? I think I am going to like the black. And I used liquid adhesive for these projects, and I'm just going to go around the edge with a light bead of my all-purpose liquid adhesive. I was watching Julie DiMatteo the other day on her Facebook Live, and she's such a neat worker. Someone actually commented about it. She doesn't get any extra glue anywhere. She's a very neat and precise crafter. I'm not. I get a little messy sometimes. So you see, by using the liquid adhesive, I have a little bit of wiggle room. Just going to press that down. Got it centered. All right, and then I'm going to center this piece inside the card, and I'm just going to try to make an even border all the way around. Okay, so again, I'm going to use my liquid adhesive, and I'm not putting any in the middle. I'm just coming around the edges here. And I'm just going to center it just by looking at the sides and the top, so everything looks about even. All right. Looks pretty good. Now this piece on the inside, where you can write your message, is cut with a Stitched So Sweetly die. This is from the So Sentimental bundle. I talk about this bundle a lot because I use it a lot. I think it's a great bundle. And I use the second to the largest scalloped stitched die. I don't know if I can pop that out. There we go. Second to the largest scalloped stitched die. Okay. And I also used a sentiment from this set. We'll talk about that in a minute. So this is going to go centered on what we just glued down. So put a little, whoops, got some paper from my cut and emboss machine. We'll just center this. There we go. Just like that. Now I'm going to close this flap and I'm going to start working on the front of the card. Okay. My pieces already cut. So I'm using the same side of the Designer Series paper that I put on the inside, and I'm going to put it here on the front lower flap. And if you have directional paper, you'll want to pay attention to that when you're cutting and gluing down. This does have a direction to it, so I want to make sure I have the stems going in the right direction on these flowers. This is Hydrangea Hill Designer Series paper. I have a little something or other on my paper. I don't know if I mentioned that before. I'm using the Hydrangea Hill Designer Series paper. So my mat, my black mat for this piece is 3 3/4, same as the mat for the inside, by 1 3/4. Oops. 3 3/4 by 1 3/4, and then the Designer Series paper is 3 5/8 by 1 5/8. So I'm going to adhere those together. So I took little Valentine treat boxes out to the barn today for my friends who are feeding the horses. I don't know if you saw, I made a quick video. I think I posted it yesterday morning. You can find it on here on the Facebook page of a really cute and quick treat box that holds 2 Lindor truffles, those little chocolate balls. I took those out today. I took all of them out. I don't have any here even to show you, but you can find the video on the Facebook page. You can also find it on my YouTube channel, Foggy Bonnet YouTube channel. So I'm going to make sure I have this. I'm talking and working, and that's always dangerous. I'm going to make sure I have this right side up. So this piece I'm just going to center on the lower flap of the card. Probably would be better if I opened this. Oh, you know what? I know why I don't want to open it, because I want to make sure I have it lined up with where I put this one. That's right. Because if this one's off a little bit, I want this one to be off a little bit in the same direction so they line up. But that looks pretty good. Okay, so that's that part. Now we're going to work on this center panel, okay? And it's going to cover up the scalloped die cut inside. So we have a few layers to put together. The black for this is 2 3/4 by 4. And then I have a layer of the same color cardstock that I used for the card base. And this measures 2 5/8 by 3 7/8. So it's, again, it's that 1/16 of an inch border around there. Now, if you ever have these little ridges on the edges of your cards, that happens sometimes when you, well, it happens most times when you use a paper trimmer with a blade that slides like we have. Just take your bone folder and smooth out those ridges. I had a couple there. It just gives your card a neater appearance when it's all done. So again, I'm just putting a bead around the outside edge here. It is cold outside too right now. I only stayed about an hour at the barn. I visited my favorite horses and didn't stay too long. It was pretty chilly. A little bit breezy, and we had some snow last night and it was falling off the pine trees. Very pretty, but chilly. Okay, now I'm going to use the reverse side of my Designer Series paper. And because it's Stampin' Up, it's going to coordinate. And that's what's going to go on this front panel. It's just the reverse side of the Designer Series paper. Now these two were spectacular. I really loved the polka dots and the, I guess you'd call that gingham. You could call that gingham, couldn't you? on the other side of the berry paper. This one, when I looked at it, I almost changed my mind and didn't use it, but I think when it's all together, I think it's going to be fine. Because it looks so much different from what's on this side, doesn't it? But I'm going to use it. We'll see how it goes. And this piece, the reversed designer series paper, is cut to 2 3/8 by 3 5/8. 2 3/8 by 3 5/8. All right, so we're going to center it. This is going to leave more than a 1/16 inch border. I wanted a little more cardstock showing here. There we go. And now when I attach this, I'm only going to put glue down here where it's going to touch this. I really don't even want glue up here on this part. I just want it where it's going to touch this. So I just kind of give myself a visual there and hold my fingers as a reference point, and then apply my glue below that. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that I have this up high enough to cover this scallop die and centered on this die so that die doesn't show at all. So I'm laying it down. Kind of centering and making sure everything's square. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so next, what do we have? Oh, we have the sentiment. All right, so the sentiment came from, as I said, it came from this So Sentimental set. I have this covered up with the die packaging because I keep my dies and my stamps together if they coordinate. And I'm using the Sending Healing Hugs stamp. And I stamped it on Whisper White, and then I cut it out with this die. It's a little stitched die that perfectly fits that sentiment. And I already have it in here. Here we go. Let's dump everything out. How's that? Okay. So I'm going to pop this up on dimensionals on the front of the card, and 2 seem to work pretty well on the back of this today. So I'm going to put 1 here and 1 here. Do you see those little bits of paper? Okay. And when I put this sentiment on, I want to put it just above, so that the bottom of this is just above the front flap. So right about here, and centered left to right, of course. This might be cute with a ribbon tied around here. I chose not to use ribbon on this project, but you could. And then these little adorable flowers were cut with the Small Bloom punch. This is in the annual catalog, and it actually coordinates with one of the papers in the June to July mini catalog. I can't remember which one. Oh, you know what? It's the strawberry, the Sweet Strawberry bundle. This stamp in the Sweet Strawberry bundle coordinates with the Small Bloom punch. So that's what I cut my little flowers with, and I wasn't quite sure how I would arrange these. I think like that. Yeah. Okay, and so to put these on, I just put a little bit of glue on the back. I believe this is Rococo Rose. Oh, and this one I put on with a dimensional. A regular size Stampin' Dimensional fits, just fits on the back of this flower, small bloom flower. And then I wanted to overlap the sentiment piece and the other flower like that. And then this one I'm going to glue down. Up here, just tucked in behind like that. And then I'm going to use my matte black dots for the middle of my flowers. And I used the larger dot. The small one just didn't seem big enough. Believe it or not, just that little bit of black in the middle of these flowers helps tie it all together with the black matte behind the paper. And one, whoops, that one almost got away. One more here. Okay, so I'm just going to cut out one more flower and put it on the inside of the card. And I'm going to put it down here in this corner, right there. Just kind of tie the front to the inside of the card. There we go. Just put it down there. And then what I did, since I didn't want to put a matte black dot on the inside of my card, I just took a marker. This is just an art marker. You could use the Stampin' markers, but I just drew a dot in the middle of this flower, just like that, to give it a center. Cute. And I want to make sure I let that dry before I shut that all the way. So there we go. Let me put the cap on my glue while that dot is drying. And let's bring out the parade of cards here. I think these are so cute. I love how colorful they look. And if you know me, you know I love mixing patterns. All right, so here they are. Sending healing hugs, a cutaway card front so that you can use your designer series paper on the inside of the card as well and have it look like the front of the card is too. Thanks so much for joining me tonight, and I will see you guys again next Thursday. Bye-bye.